ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's finally happened.
Oh, we're so excited.
For three seasons, we have
Whole years.
been putting his arm up his back. We've been threatening him. We've kidnapped the dog. He didn't care. And so we've finally made it happen. Producer Andy is here. This is, yeah. I mean, if you don't know,
the other side of the
This
camera.
is so
What's going
weird.
on?
if you don't know which camera to wave at, we've got no chance. Andy, you are a leading creative. You've been part of this community for a long time. You have done, I think, about every function imaginable in community, outside of community. People will have seen your work across airports and magazines and literature and everywhere. You are the silent force behind much Christian creativity and the world beyond. And so we are genuinely really excited to have a conversation with you today. We're aware you're less excited.
He's
so,
like, oh,
so thank
no,
you.
why did I agree to this?
Thank you for being this side of the camera. That is not necessarily all of the Ninja Creative's favourite place to be. So to publicly be putting yourself out here today is going to be super, super helpful for so many people. So let's do the starters for 10. What is your favourite, if you have to, one thing that you can eat, what's the thing? Long day, busy, tired, like you don't have to make it, you don't have to pay for it, like it will just appear. What are you fetching for? What are you asking for?
Wow. Okay. So it's not those pickles.
I mean,
that's for absolute sure. Okay. So I love a curry. And I think my curry of choice would be a spicy chicken naga balti.
That's quite
great.
like special,
I
isn't
know.
it?
It's exciting.
Love
I
it.
kind of like that. So
nice.
yeah, I think that would be my thing, followed probably by some Haribo, I guess.
Oh, what a day. Now we're talking.
That's a
Yeah,
good
man.
day. In fact, can we stop filming?
Yeah,
I'm going to
that'll
go.
do. Yeah,
now.
get the order in
We've had
now.
squashes today.
Yeah, we have.
we have.
Squashes.
Get the order in.
Sponsored
Jelly
by-
babies. Yeah.
What is one of your sources of inspiration? What gets you out of a bit of a creative flat spot? Are there artists that you go to? Is there music that you go to? We know, so I am goading and guiding the witness.
Your honour.
What are the creative outlets that you go to? What do you love that gets you going again?
Well, so I guess I love my music. I love my music. Whether that's playing music, but I love listening to music. And this is really embarrassing now, right? Okay. So one of my go-to things,
Yeah.
I play this spa music
Love it.
soundtrack.
Yeah.
So there's times when I'm kind of working. It depends what project I'm working on. Sometimes, I will drive my wife mad with this sometimes first thing in the morning. Because like if I'm feeling a bit like, whoa, whatever, I'll hit this spa music playlist and the panpipes come on.
Come on.
And I'm just like, that's
Somewhere
pretty cool,
else.
man.
Yeah,
But then
nice.
on the flip side, from there, I'll go to Dave Lee Roth, Van Halen, and jump, and that is literally. I am not joking. That is
Get you
true.
there.
You've got to have a creative span and arc, though, Andy,
Yeah,
right? You can just pull
totally.
from all these different places.
Totally.
I love it.
But I think my music of choice at the moment, I love house jazz. Loving house jazz. Can we plug? I don't know. There's a band called Berlioz
Yeah, very
who
good.
do kind of a lot of jazz with some house mixed in. Just some cool vibes. Love
Really
it.
cool vibes.
Well,
Love
Andy,
it.
you are responsible for putting the links in the show notes, so feel free.
You can do what you like.
Oh,
Put the
fine.
links in the show notes.
We can't do that bit. Amazing. Okay, here we go. Let's get into this.
Getting in. I'm excited.
Let's go. And do you want to tell us what's your primary grace, and then how have you found that? Like, what's your journey been with that?
Right, okay. So I think this is quite funny that God gave me a primary grace that I can't even say.
I think it's the hardest
I'm
one
just
to
like-
say. I say it
what-
wrong all the time.
What's like going on? So I can say I'm an apostle.
There you
Yes.
Not a problem. Apostolistic, but that one.
Yeah,
The one
apostolic.
beginning with A. That's
Great,
the
you got
one.
it.
Great.
You got it.
Apostolic.
Well done.
It isn't like a twister, isn't it?
It is. It's a bit of a mad one. So yeah. So that was my primary grace. I must admit, I think what I found really interesting with this, we have a primary and a secondary grace, and I know we're not necessarily talking about the secondary grace. But the primary grace, I must admit, it really made me chuckle in a way. Because I think I just thought I was weird, to be honest, in some respects.
Right.
And I don't mean that like whatever, but some of the, honestly, this is really funny. I'm hearing Nick and Mina talk beforehand. And that example that Nikki gave about when we had those meetings in the Rio Hall, and you guys have been doing what you guys have been doing, and her response, her thoughts to that and her perspective was very much, are they okay? Have they eaten? All that? All I'm thinking about is what font have you used on that handout? And what have you printed this on?
Who
and
signed
I'm like,
this off?
who signed this
Clearly,
off?
Sarah has been at the tech and the creativity again. We're going to need
And
words.
it's like, I'm joking with that. I'm joking, but it's like, I think what's come out of this is so interesting. How God has given us these individual gifts. And there is an element where we're wired so differently. But that's really good. That's really, really cool. And so I think for me, having this apostle gift, and actually when you read the descriptions and you see some of the kind of traits, is that the right word? I don't know, but some of kind of what the makeup of an apostle is. I think for the first time, I think it made me feel this is not meant to sound strange, but slightly empowered, that I could identify
Brilliant.
some of these things, which I just thought, why do I see things that way? I mean, again, it honestly, it's so funny in our house, like with me and my wife. One of the things that I do when we sit and watch Apple TV, we sit and watch Netflix, like we'll be sitting there and my wife, she kind of goes to the remote and goes to skip the intro. I'm like, what are you doing? It's like, what are you doing? For me, some of these are the best parts.
Yeah. Someone spent time thinking about this, editing
exactly.
it, curating
Well, there you go.
it,
Yeah,
putting
exactly.
the music to it.
Exactly. So I'm looking at this from a very different perspective. I'm kind of like, and it's quite often like when you see a street sign or something, you're thinking, like, where am I going to go? Look at the street sign, you go that way. My mind goes to what typeface is that? What colour is that? Which is kind of like a crazy thing. But that's the way I'm wired. And when you look at the thing of an apostle, and look at some of the traits of an apostle, it's like, oh, okay, so I'm not going like whatever.
Yeah.
This is the way God's created me. And I think for me, seeing that was really cool, and identifying a lot of stuff within me and how I think and how I feel and how I see life, and thinking, I'm not mad. This is kind of like, this is legit, and I see how God's made me.
I love that, Andy, and it's not actually unusual. A lot of people with that apostolic grace. I had the privilege of kind of helping to lead a session on it recently with a room full of people with an apostolic grace, and it was almost like this big sigh of relief in the room. When we were sharing, like, your mind is always on. You're always thinking. You're always thinking about like what's new or what's next or how you could change that or what you bring with that. And a lot of people sort of said to us afterwards, similarly to what you've just shared, oh, I just thought I was weird. Like I literally had a conversation with somebody. Like, I just thought there was like not something wrong with me, but like I just thought I was weird. I just thought I didn't quite fit in anything. And I think part of the thing of the apostolic grace is if you're always leading out the front, if you're always kind of pioneering or bringing new things, then you're not necessarily kind of fitting in something because you're kind of taking that pioneering edge. But you're also super creative, Andy. So how have you seen, now that you've started to kind of sort of understand that and it gives you language for how God's made you, when you look back and you look to what you're involved in now, how do you see your apostolic grace and your creativity working together?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I guess for what I do as a job, which is creativity, basically, I mean, kind of, I guess my primary thing of what I do is I'm a videographer, which I suppose I've never looked at this before, actually. I'm just thinking about this right now. I always look through a lot of things. I'm looking through a lens.
Yeah.
And it's interesting actually, that whole thing. Sometimes I'm a huge Villa fan. Sorry,
That's okay,
everybody.
Jesus still
Huge
loves
Villa fan. But like quite often, it's like we'll go to the Villa and like the players will come out, fireworks are going, all that's going off. It's really cool. And my son is kind of like watching the players and all that. So I'm there with the phone, and like which is cool. It's good, but actually I'm not kind of necessarily present in the moment. I know that's a whole other thing I was going to talk about later. So we'll see where that goes.
Go into it now if you want, and that's fine.
No, yeah, but I think sort of for me, I think it's kind of I'm constantly creating. Whether it is a video project, and that's all sorts of video projects. I mean, it's funny you said that before. I mean, yeah, I have. I've done some random stuff in screens in Birmingham Airport to big show openers, to story videos, to all sorts of different things actually. But I think there's something like for me, my faith. And sort of the grace that God has given me. It's interesting the question that you had about sort of how does this apply in work life as well as church life. And so I do a lot of work for church and not just here, but a wider church, but also a lot of corporate stuff, a lot of stuff that's just nothing to do with church in that respect. But in some ways, I kind of treat them the same way, how I create. I think, yeah, for me, I mean, if every piece of creativity that I did helped people to find and follow Jesus, that would just be incredible. And my prayer is whether it is, whether it is church-based stuff or whether it is non-church-based stuff, that I will still give it everything I've got. And, because at the end of the day, I mean, I believe that God has given me this gift, totally undeserved, but, God's given me this gift. And so whatever I create, whatever I do, I just want to use that to give him glory. And it's interesting, some of the work that you do, some of the events that you go to, it might be absolutely nothing to do with the creativity. It may be just a conversation that you have at an event. And so I think, yeah, it's all just as important, because worship at the end of the day.
Great.
So,
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Am I jumping in?
Yeah, I was like, I'm just thinking about it and going, just that we had a conversation from the book of Micah in the last couple of episodes about how people compartmentalize their lives and didn't see it all as worship. So, Andy, it's really inspiring to hear you think and talk about like every element of my life is worship to God, whether that's writing a song, playing an instrument, creating a video. I know you recently did a really cool project of like people who are felling trees, whether that's like capturing like tree surgeons or, a project thing or something at a wedding, that all of those things, you come with that same kind of internal posture of wanting to give your best and wanting to see all of that as worship.
That's
I think
right.
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of thoughts that I think would be super helpful from your perspective. I'm thinking about the apostolic is often the voice of what's new or what's next, and often is pointing kind of a direction of travel. How do you individually, but then how do those also with this grace serve well when your voice isn't heard, or you've got to facilitate somebody else's brief? So I'm thinking about a lot of the work that comes across your desk maybe wouldn't be what you would choose to do. Do you know what I'm saying? Like you maybe wouldn't choose to tell the story in that way, or you maybe wouldn't choose for that element of that project, but you are in that place where, all right, that's what I'm being asked to do. But the apostolic gift, the first way that you see the world is like, okay, well, what's new, what's next, and how are we going to communicate and, point people in that direction? How have you dealt with, and how would you encourage those with that primary gaze to respond when they don't feel their voice is being heard? What do you do with that internal tension? What do you do with that creative tension? What do you do when you kind of feel a bit, pun intended, this is a very inside joke, painted into a corner?
Whoa. Wow, that's a good question, man. need time to think about and process that one. But no, I know in the start of my creative journey, and I still have to check myself with this sort of stuff, because it's true. Some projects that I get even now will be stuff that I'm in control of. So, and please hear me, that doesn't mean that they're going to be brilliant, because it's just like, but it's different when you're in control, from the beginning of the project, for instance, through to the end. When you get stuff that maybe you're not in control of, and it's funny, I think of some of the stuff through COVID here, which makes me laugh. COVID doesn't make me laugh, but
no,
so
but
please,
like we literally, Andy was like literally producing like a movie a week. It was insane.
It was, yeah, I think so. But and interestingly, I think this is where a lot of lessons have been learned in that respect, because I mean, like so many of us, when it came to COVID, we would be in lockdown, all that sort of stuff, and we would, for us as a church, we would find our way how to communicate and keep connecting with people digitally. And so, yeah, I was kind of putting together like a meeting on a Sunday, but kind of pre-recorded, all that sort of stuff. And I would get a lot of stuff sent me. I would get a lot of mobile phone stuff sent me. And yeah, I think that was interesting, because like when you're producing that a week and you've got to get these things done and get these things out, and it's kind of, and you get some mobile phone stuff sent you that you've got to incorporate in this thing, and you're thinking, oh, this is great. It's all blurred. Yes. How is this going to happen? And all that sort of stuff. And I think everything within you, as for an apostle, and for having those tensions and things like that, it's very easy, and maybe this is part of some of your blind spots as well that you have to keep in check. It's very easy to throw your toys out the pram, and I have done so many times. And to be honest, even now, there's times, especially when things get a bit stressy, depending on workload and things like that. There are times, when things do come across my desk, that maybe I'm tasked with kind of putting together into a bigger project that I maybe wouldn't have done it like that, or I wouldn't have filmed it like that, or whatever. But I think at the end of the day, for me now, I mean, beforehand, and I say beforehand, maybe at times when I'm tired, I might still do it. But beforehand, I'd have just kind of like, and just kind of like,
Katie, can we clip that, please?
Yeah. Thanks, Katie.
And just kind of maybe, threw my toys out the pram. But actually, I think and this is kind of no pun intended, because we're talking about graces, but when I think of the grace that God's given me over my life, and I look at, whoever sent me this stuff, they're doing the very best that they can with what they have.
Very good.
And I think as well, just recently, I said, well, I'm not a very patient guy. Okay. It's like
I think that is also part of the apostolic nature,
It is one of the apostolic things, is that you want things now, you want quick results, you want
and
this.
you see it quick, right?
It is. And I think also, I'm putting myself out here, right? So I'm one of these guys. I'm sorry if you're a learner driver. I am so sorry. Because, I am one of those guys that will just be quite impatient. And like, I shouldn't be driving, like literally kissing their bumper. That is not the way to do it, And I think some of that is because my son has just literally learned to drive, just passed his test.
Amazing.
And he is one of those learner drivers. Yeah. And crazy, it kind of really gets you thinking, man. You put yourself in somebody else's shoes. And so, what I will do, depending on the project, depending on what it's all about, and this is maybe part of the teacher gift. So interesting. When Mina left, we just had this conversation outside. I'm like, Mina, so much of what you said is like, I could have said that as well. And because my secondary grace is a teacher.
Yeah.
And, I think there may be times, depending, that I can maybe input into that rather than going, this is rubbish, what am I doing?
Very
Oh,
good,
well,
Andy.
I'm getting paid for it. But actually there may be with the privilege that maybe if I'm afforded that I can speak in and help people. So, to help them maybe look at things differently next time.
Great.
And I'm not going to say I'm an expert, because I'm still learning this as well.
Brilliant.
So.
I've got a couple more things I would like to ask you. I know time is pushing, but I think it's worth the investment.
Absolutely. Let's keep going.
I want to know when the confidence of the apostolic is low, how do you trust the grace to keep being sent? So those moments where you maybe don't back yourself, or you think the work is rubbish, or it's easier not to. It's easier to kind of stay locked behind, perhaps what you can hide in. I'm aware that this table has a lot of experience to speak around this grace, to the tyranny of those who are.
Yeah, I'm really sorry, everyone.
Mercy of it. But for what do you do when the confidence of the apostolic is low? How do you trust the grace to keep being sent?
Gosh, that's interesting. And I think the reality of it is, as creatives, I mean, we are, as you say, we're all creative sitting around this table. There are times when you do take a nosedive, and that pun before, sort of, what did you say? Paint a picture
into the corner.
Yeah, paint into a corner. Yeah. So, sort of, I was once a painter and decorator. That's kind of what I did, and there are times that even like years later, that sometimes I'm like, I'll go in the shed and I'll look at the old brushes, and I'll look at the old. I'm thinking, it's a lot easier, Just, I just go and paint somebody's house, paint some walls, and go home, and there we go. It's whatever. But I think I don't know whether this is the right answer, but maybe this is a different perspective answer. But I think in those moments, I think for me as a creative, I mean, I trust God, okay? And even just recently, sort of working on a lot of projects for one big, I mean, we've all been to like a big conference, and I was tasked with a lot of work pre-conference. And I'm just going to be honest with you, I had several meltdowns over like silly waking up in the night. I can't do this. I'm not going to do it. And then I put my spa music on and everything's fine.
Meet Jesus in the spa music.
Meet Jesus in the spa music.
What's worse?
Yeah, or actually go to a spa, it might be even better. But no, I think it's all for me, it's shifting things back into perspective. It's very easy. I find it's very easy to lose my perspective, and that's just being really honest.
Great.
And I think, as a creative, I don't know whether you guys find this, but I find that for me, I'm always switched on.
Yeah.
Always switched on. It doesn't matter where it is, what time of day it is, or that I'm always switched on. I'm always, so I messaged a mate of mine yesterday, day before, because I was at an event on Monday night. Something just came into my head. They could do this. They could do this. They could earn some money. They could do. So literally, I'm texting this person, and this person must have thought, Andy, just go away.
I'm sure they didn't, Andy.
In my head, I'm seeing something. I saw something in this person that they could do something. Already, I'm branding it up.
Yeah.
I'm kind of giving it an identity. I'm doing the promo video for it. I'm kind of doing this, and I think that's great, and it has its place. It's good, but also, it can bring fatigue as well, mental fatigue. And I think for me, in those moments, that's where I can lose my perspective. And I'm like, Apostle, I can't even say it, so forget it. I'm just like, it's easy to go back to the brushes. But then sometimes for I think for me, the space where and this is just maybe a practical thing, and this may help other people I don't know in your studios or in your church or in your office or wherever it is. Sometimes there's this joke in my household because I'm not very good at sitting still. Honestly, if I was at home now, I would not be sitting here. I'd be upstairs looking out a window.
Pacing.
I'd be walking around, stroking the dog in the garden. And what helps me is just that movement to actually sort of move out of the space. And sometimes, I know this may be kind of, this is cheesy, but it's true. Is sometimes I'll just bring it all back to God. Every day now, every single day, without fail, of a morning when I wake up, it's a simple prayer, very simple prayer, but I just say, everything I do, God, I put you in the center. And sometimes
Really
it doesn't feel like God's in the center because maybe I'm just, I don't know, I'm having a wobbly or whatever, but it's just trusting that actually, no, he is in the center. And his faithfulness as well. I think I look back and see how faithful God has been for me personally in my work. And sometimes I say the word sometimes, I don't know, but it's just kind of looking back on those and seeing where God has been faithful and going, no, God, I trust you.
Yeah.
And, sometimes it's not easy, but I pick myself up again and go, no, I'm going again. So I don't know whether that's a bit of a rubbish answer, but
No,
anyway,
it's not. It's
just,
great.
Brilliant.
Really good.
Do you have any questions?
I was going to say, Andy, you talked a little bit about like having ideas for other people. One of the things that often comes with an apostolic grace is this entrepreneurial spirit. From what I know of your life and kind of career and all the things you've done, often it's been your own businesses or your own projects. Maybe just talk a little bit about what it's felt like to lean into that entrepreneurial spirit, maybe some of the freedoms that brings and maybe just some of the challenges. Maybe there might be some other people with that apostolic grace who are like, I've got a business in me or an idea or a side hustle. Like, just talk a little bit about that and how perhaps an understanding of the apostolic grace gives language to some of the adventures you've been on.
Yeah, I think this is the thing with, and this is where for me it was so refreshing to actually, this way I was feeling actually was legit and had a name, had an identity in this apostolic. Oh, come on.
Katie, definitely that one.
Yeah, man. Man. So in the, I'm not going to say that twice. But yeah, I think, so I remember we were at, in fact, I can't remember whether it was we've been there a couple of times now, I think, and we were kind of having a leaders time at a hotel. And I remember I don't know whether you guys actually clocked it, but as we were walking into the room, there was a great big mural on the wall. I never forget this. It was a huge mural on the wall. And it was all these different things that have happened in history. But the slogan, the strapline was, everything starts with an idea. And I really held that because I think a lot of things, pretty much everything starts with an idea. And some of us, maybe that kind of, or those ideas come, maybe I say more than others, maybe that's part of the grace and that's how we're wired. And so the entrepreneurial thing, I know I drive people mad talking about this sort of stuff. And I think in some respects, the one thing for me, I wish I had maybe more space, more time to really think, and I love that whole thing. And I think the thing is at the moment is the entrepreneurial, the being innovative. There's another word I can't say.
Innovative.
You just said it.
Come on. But I think at the heart of this, I love the fact that when there's something that helps people find and follow Jesus, and I think the I wouldn't class myself as an entrepreneur at all. But
and you've got like 25 businesses. Come on.
but no, I wish I had. So but one thing I just love that whole thing of what can we do? I know you talked about this. What can we do next? What can we do? Is there an idea in this? I remember, and this is not to blow whatever. It's not about that at all. But I remember that we bought a shed, and I remember when one day we had a team meeting and we bought the shed for Christmas. Was it Christmas? Yeah, it was for Christmas. And we kind of had this shed, and the shed's still out front of the church now. I just remember one day walking past his shed, I parked outside, and as I walked past, I just looked at it, and I just remember thinking, oh, that could be a soup kitchen. And I remember, what a silly idea in a shed. But actually, no, there's a kind of whole thing. I wonder
There's
whether
a whole
you call
community.
it a community vibe, which is now called the shed, which is not necessarily in the little shed, but that's where the idea came from. And, but it wasn't, it was just an idea. And that's sometimes what we get is when you're thinking of ideas, it may not be. You just might be the spark. You just might be the idea person.
Right.
But then it's for somebody else to kind of have that baton and they run with it.
Brilliant,
and sort of bring that to life sort of thing. But one thing I would say, if you've got ideas, honestly, do not be afraid. Speak to someone, find someone you trust, and that you can share these ideas with, because who knows, that idea that you may have, I mean, let's think big, man. That idea that could be the next real big thing that really helps people find and follow Jesus,
Really
whatever that may
amazing.
look like. So it might not be that. It might be something that earns you a lot of money. Happy days.
It could be both.
It could be both. Bring it on. So
Podcast that Elim Life Church.
All those go to Andy.
yeah, man.
We'll be like, where's Andy on the next recording? He's off. Like,
Got the email before we did. Thank you, mate.
Sorry, did that answer the question?
Yeah,
I'm not sure whether it did.
Really
Brilliant.
good.
We're going to ask you to pray in a little minute, but there's just a thread I want to pull that's been consistent across everything that Nikki, Mina, and Andy has said. And I'm not sure yet. We might change the plan a little bit. I don't know if we'll do these in one episode or as their own individual thing. So however we chop them up, but they've been consistent in that I wonder if what we come against often the opposition of doing this work. And it is work that all three have done. It wasn't something that happened at them. It's something that they've been engaged in a process to help understand. And then I think there can be a misunderstanding of, well, that's self-indulgent, or it's going to make me self-absorbed, or like the work about myself and about me, and it's going to isolate me, and it's just going to give me an ego, or it's going to make me exclusive, or I'm just going to become distracted by myself, which as people of faith who love Jesus, we get nervous around self-improvement, and we get nervous around those sorts of things. Consistently across all three, what I've heard is the better I've understood my grace, it's opened me up to the awareness of others. And at no point has it gone, well, the more I've understood me, the less I've wanted to understand anybody else. It's like the more I've understood who I am, it's helped me understand I need a better perspective of the ones that I don't have. Consistently across blind spots or learning opportunities or considering the needs of others or perspectives. And actually that has only been made possible by there being an increased understanding of how the individual has been made. So if there is any sort of cultural tension in people of like, well, actually that's selfishness, or it's about me, and actually what we're supposed to do is be like Jesus, and the way that we're like Jesus is to function fully in the way that he's made us in his image,
and carry our piece
of the puzzle. That not any single one of us is capable of being fully Jesus. And so in his likeness, we're all given a piece and then brought into this mutual dependence with each other to see that full picture. And what it would appear to be true from what people have shared with their stories is that the deeper down that rabbit hole you go, the greater your awareness for others becomes. Yeah.
And I think the greater your awareness of how kind Jesus is, that he, as he ascended, has graced each of us with, he's entrusted each of us with something. And I think you used the word, Andy, and the Spirit empowers us in that, so there's this beautiful picture of, yes, we're dependent on each other. Yes, we're open to one another, but also it reminds us of that dependency on God and in God, his kindness towards us, that we're invited to participate in what he's doing on the earth, and then how we need the Spirit to help us in that.
Great. And could you pray for your fellow
Apostolistics?
Come on.
We just make up a new name. That's what apostles do, right? Thanks, Andy.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, let's pray. Father, first and foremost, we thank you, Lord, so much for your grace. We thank you for your gifts. Lord, it's been so good, Lord, for me personally to hear from a shepherd, to hear from a teacher, Lord. And I know there's the evangelists and the prophets, Lord. And yet, Father, you've graced us with these gifts. And that is mind-blowing, that you, the God of the universe, the ultimate creator, Lord, would grant us these incredible gifts. And Father, not only gifts sort of that you give us individually, but Father, how these gifts collaboratively can be used for incredible things, Lord, to help people find and follow Jesus, but to see your kingdom come. Yeah. And so, Father, I specifically pray for all those apostles, Lord, for those people with those entrepreneurial spirit, Lord, that you will give them a boldness. Lord, you will grow their curiosity, Father, a healthy curiosity, Lord, of the things that they could do. What can they invent, Lord? What can they bring to help people find and follow you? And Lord, I just pray for protection on their lives. Lord, I pray against burnout. It's so easy, Father, when you are constantly wired to think a lot, Father, for fatigue and burnout. Lord, so I pray against that, but I just pray that you will raise up, Lord, more apostles, more teachers, Lord, more evangelists, more prophets, and more shepherds. Yeah. Lord, that we would do incredible things. Lord, I keep saying it, but to help people find and follow you. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Andy. Thank you so much for watching Around the Fire or listening to Around the Fire. Thank you for joining in. Please share, because we think these stories are great, and we're so pleased that we've had a number of guests on over these last episode, and we're so thankful for their perspective and their willingness to share. So subscribe, is that what I'm supposed to say?
Sure.
You normally do this, but I don't know how to do it.
I've
like waded in. I don't know what happened.
Happy for you to take this bit.
Subscribe, like, follow, share. Leave us a comment, and then if you'd like to get in touch, if you'd like to give us some questions that we can think about, or some reflections or some perspectives, we'd love yours. So podcast@elimlifechurch.co.uk.
There we go. Sarah did the outro. Stranger things have happened. See you on the next one. Bye.